The October Revolution 1917. Weaknesses and mistakes of the provisional government. Weaknesses. They had a lack of legitimacy as they had not been elected. The people were not used to democracy. They had insurmountable problems such as collapse of the transport system, which led to food and fuel shortages, and the collapse of the communication system, which meant it was hard to find out what was happening elsewhere and hard to ensure its orders were being carried out. They had to work under dual authority with the Petrograd Soviet, especially under Soviet Order No. 1, which meant the Petrograd Soviet could claim to have a more legitimate right to govern since its members were elected. Mistakes of the provisional government. Their decision to continue the war. This meant that the provisional government blocked any radical social and economic changes until the end of the war, which only increased frustration and the feeling that the provisional government was distanced from the real concerns of the people. As the masses became more radicalized, the provisional government seemed to be more reactionary. They were divided about how the war should be conducted. Some argued for a policy of revolutionary defensivism, and others argued for a more aggressive strategy. The June offensive was unpopular and disastrous. Another mistake they made was delay in calling for the Constituent Assembly elections. It meant that the land issue could not be resolved, which meant that peasants' desertions from the army increased and peasants' seizure of the land increased. The release of political prisoners and granting freedoms of the press was popular, but had effect on helping them spread radical ideas. They failed to address the concerns of the national minorities, looking for greater self-determination. They failed to act decisively after the Bolsheviks after the July days. Sailors at a naval base at Kronstadt organised an armed demonstration under Bolshevik slogans and marched into Petrograd. This posed a dilemma for the Bolsheviks. While some leading Bolsheviks supported the attempted rising in July, Lenin's attitude was wait and see. The events of July discredited the Bolsheviks. Kamenev and Trotsky were arrested and others forced into hiding. This was an opportunity for Kerensky to crush them completely. He failed to take it. Kerensky's response to the Kornilov March in Petrograd released unarmed Bolsheviks, which made Kerensky and his government look weak and allowed the Bolsheviks to present themselves as defenders of Petrograd and as heroes. Kerensky's decision in October to close down the Bolshevik newspaper and arrest leaders forced the Bolsheviks to take action. Role of Lenin. Lenin returned to Russia in April 1917. He believed that the revolution was moving into a second stage, moving from a bourgeois revolution to a proletarian one. He saw the necessity for acting quickly to take advantage of increasing radicalism of the masses. When he returned, he issued his April thesis, which had two slogans. First slogan, all power to the Soviets. This encouraged non-cooperation with the provisional government. Lenin then encouraged the Bolsheviks to attend the meetings of the Petrograd Soviet. As attendance from other parties began to drop off, the Bolsheviks gradually achieved a majority. 9th of September, Bolsheviks had a majority. 25th of September, Trotsky was appointed chairman of the Soviet. Lenin could then claim in October to have launched the revolution on behalf of the Soviets, which the people liked. The second slogan, peace, land, bread. It appealed to the soldiers. The Bolsheviks recognized the unpopularity of the war and the fact that most soldiers were peasants in uniform who wanted to go back to their families. It appealed to the peasants. This involved the chiefs who the Bolsheviks had always seen as conservative and reactionary. Lenin, showing his pragmatism, now declared the peasants were a revolutionary force. It appealed to the workers. As a Marxist party, the Bolsheviks had always worked for a proletarian revolution. Lenin won over doubters in the party such as Zinoviev and Kamenev. He disassociated the Bolsheviks from the failure of the July days. He recognized timing. He realized the best time for the revolution was just before the elections for the Constituent Assembly in October. He knew the Bolsheviks would not do well in these elections. He supported Trotsky. Role of Trotsky. He disassociated himself from the Menshevik past and criticized the Mensheviks for working with the provisional government. He supported Lenin's decision to have a rising. He organized the Bolshevik Red Guard, having responsibility for recruitment and discipline. He coordinated the activities of the Military Revolutionary Committee, which had been set up by the Petrograd Soviet to resist the transfer of revolutionary troops out of Petrograd. He planned the actual seizure of power in October, such as the seizure of key buildings, such as power stations and telegram offices. The Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks were able to capitalize on the Kornilov affair. They presented the provisional government as looking weak and presented themselves as defenders of Petrograd, as heroes. They capitalized on the weaknesses of the SRs and Mensheviks who lost credibility for joining the provisional government. On the night of the 25th-26th of October, the Bolsheviks took power. There was little resistance from the provisional government, which had by this stage lost all credibility. The Bolsheviks' time, the seizure of power took place at the same time as the meeting of all Russian Congress of Soviets, a meeting of representatives from all Soviets throughout Russia, and claimed to be acting on its behalf. This gave them legitimacy and credibility. They could present themselves as acting on behalf of the people.